And that very special friend is joining us right now.
That's right, as we slide into the Coors side seats. Joining us is CTV and TSN host of the Invictus Games in Toronto, Brian Williams. Brian, we thank you for coming here. This event, wow. We've promoted the heck out of it for good reason.
Right. Listen, I've done 14 Olympics, and people say, what's different and what's special?
Yeah, what is?
I went to Afghanistan in 2007. I was never in any danger, but the experience of seeing young men and young women that represent this country and see what they do. I can remember at night, you'd see the convoys going out of the camp at Kandahar, the tanks, young men and women driving them into the desert to fight, to pursue the Taliban. When I came home, I began to notice a change in this country, an appreciation on behalf of Canadians or from Canadians, an appreciation and respect for the military, the men and the women. So these games are very, very different. The stories are like nothing I've ever encountered. As I say, I've done 14 Olympics. I've never prepared for an opening ceremony like this.
Yeah, you got to tell us about it because the names, the people involved are simply incredible.
The Prime Minister will speak. Mike Myers, a Canadian actor, now living in Los Angeles from Scarborough, Ontario, a part of Metro Toronto. His parents were both military people. He will have a major speech, but the stories are incredible. Rick Hansen will introduce Trevor Green. Trevor Green is a veteran, lives in Nanaimo, British Columbia. I mean, stop and think of this, you folks at home. 10 years ago, he's sitting, darkness, nighttime in Afghanistan, talking to the elders, the leaders of the various Taliban or whatever groups who they're trying to make peace with. He takes his helmet off. A 19-year-old comes up behind him with a hatchet and splits his head wide open. They didn't think he'd live. They got him to Landstuhl in Germany, to the American base. That's the trip they go on, to the American hospital. Phoned his wife, said, you know, you better get over here. I don't think he's going to make it. He made it, and his wife's an amazing woman, I'm told. Rick Hansen says she's unbelievable. Rick is going to introduce Trevor Green. He's going to tell that story. Out will come his wife and children, and behind them, Prince Harry. I mean, the stories are amazing. But I think the thing the point I want to make tonight is, one of the co-captains is a woman named Natasha Dupuy, 37 years old, Quebec City, a veteran. She has PTSD. You know what that stands for?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
She made the comment, if you have a physical injury, people understand it, or at least think they do. But when you don't have a physical injury, it's awfully hard to tell people that you're injured or you're hurt. And this is a big part of these games, the invisible injuries. Prince Harry talked about those in Orlando. These are the third games. The first were 2014 in London, last year in Orlando, next year Sydney, Australia. But he talked about the invisible injuries. And he talked about women suffering postpartum depression after babies, men sitting home that can't come out of their bedrooms, soldiers that finally have the courage to admit they're dealing with depression. So the invisible injuries are a big part of these games. And this is to hear him talk about it. And I'll just tell you guys one quote from Prince Harry that says all you need to know. I'm watching the Orlando ceremonies on tape, studying, preparing. I could not believe that he said this. He said, I was leaving Afghanistan. He was there for 2 tours of duty. There's the body of a Danish soldier, 2 young Brits fighting for their lives in the plane. And he said, here I'm thinking, I have extraordinary privilege and power as a prince. Maybe it's time I use that extraordinary privilege and power to help my military family. The stories are just endless.
I'm Irish, so I've got a temper, and I get very emotional. I cry at commercials. I remember watching, we were at Canada House in London, watching the closing ceremonies, surrounded by Team Canada members. And just watching what they did during the Olympics brought me to tears. So I think a lot of people, including myself, we're just going to be puddles watching this because of what these people have overcome and seeing them perform.
You're right. They're competitors. They don't refer to themselves as athletes, and there are medals, gold, silver, and bronze. They don't keep account of the medals, but as Prince Harry says, don't kid yourself. They know who's winning, and they know
It's going to
who's
be
won
so
the medals.
emotional.
Tell us some of the events, Brian. There's over 550 competitors.
There's track and field, there's volleyball, wheelchair volleyball, there's basketball, there's swimming, there's golf, there's driving. Jaguar's a sponsor. Land Rover, there's driving through an obstacle course of mud, I believe. But the interesting thing is they're not selected just on ability. Many are selected, in particular the Canadian team, selected on the basis of need. How will this help them? How will this help in their rehabilitation? Bruce Matthews, a corporal for 18 years, is here competing. He's retired. He said he will not be defined by these games, whether that be his injuries will not define him, whether they're physical or invisible. And he said something that's very interesting. He said in a radio interview, he said, most of us didn't get to finish what we started. This not only gives us a chance to finish what we started, it gives us a chance to represent our country and say thank you to the people that we represented. I mean, the stories are, the competition's going to be great, the competitors are great, but it's the stories that will make this.
And you mentioned Mike Myers, you mentioned Prince Harry, and then the closing ceremonies, you got Springsteen, Kelly Clarkson, Bryan Adams.
You have Alessia Cara in the opening.
Brampton, Ontario.
Brampton, Ontario, just north of Metro Toronto. You have Sarah McLachlan will sing I Remember. The tenors are there. You talked about the closing, which is a week Saturday, live on CTV. TSN has the weeknight coverage. The singer, a young guy, I hadn't heard of him, named Springsteen from New Jersey. Now get this, Bruce Springsteen's opening a Broadway show, a one-man show, sold out for months.
Yeah.
He's opening it on the Tuesday, October 2nd. He's here on the Saturday.
Wow.
That's how seriously he takes this. Bryan Adams will perform. Bachman Turner, remember the Bachman Turner Overdrive
What? Are you kidding me?
out of the great city of Winnipeg, Manitoba.
I didn't even know that.
Kelly Clarkson will
What a
perform. Prime Minister Trudeau is speaking on this Saturday. His wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, will speak at the closing. Melania Trump, Donald Trump's wife, is leading the American delegation. That is because she's the First Lady. Michelle Obama did it last year in Orlando. This is a big deal, and people stop me on the street and they say, what's it all about? I say, watch it and you'll get it. And when we have the March of Nations, there were 15 nations in Orlando. There will be 17 here. The new ones are Ukraine and Romania. But what I find so interesting is Afghanistan is sending a team. Iraq is sending a team. So you have soldiers from those countries alongside soldiers from countries. Canada lost, what, 158, 162 soldiers. And here they are all competing together, and brothers and sisters in arms. Let's not forget, these are not just men. These are men and women.
This is maybe the coolest thing ever. You recently had a boardroom named after you here in the beautiful Scarborough campus at CTV, the Brian Williams Boardroom. Our first question is, how many clocks are in this boardroom, Brian, from time zones all over the planet?
I don't know. Do you know what time it is, Ryan? Remember the Royal Canadian Air Force? The late Roger Abbott used to come out on stage and say, hello, I'm Ryan Williams, Brian Williams' twin brother. Do you know what time it is in Korea? And he'd pull up the sleeve of his coat, and he'd have 10 watches down his arm.
That's got to be an amazing honor. I mean,
it was a great honor.
Yeah.
Lloyd Robertson, the Lloyd Robertson boardroom, and my boardroom, I was stunned when they announced it for Lloyd. I said, good, that makes sense. And then they announced, I said, talking to me? And I was just honored. Randy Lennox did that, the president of Bell Media. It's a great honor.
We're hoping to get a broom closet.
Yeah, we'll get someday. We actually, our passes don't get us into this building.
Our passes literally do not get us into the studio. So
I think they're trying to tell us something.
Well,
Can you help us out?
Yeah, you got to tell the viewers at home. This studio is at the edge of the Bell Media Center. They don't get into the main area.
No.
I got a bad parking spot miles away, and my parking spot is right next to these guys' studio.
Well, we'll be fine. Brian, this is going to be incredible. Opening ceremony is Saturday, 8 Eastern on CTV. You're going to be there, and you'll be there all week on TSN. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure
I know it's
to
been
be
a long
here.
day for you.
It's been a long day for me, but I got to tell you, a long time for you guys. Good to have you back in the country.
You did the quick close. You did the quick. There we go. Because you only got my fingers there.
Oh, I can break those. No, it's good to have you back.
It's great to be
back. The show's great. You got a Brian for the second week in a row. You had my buddy Brian Burke last week.
Oh, man, he was I tell you. Do you ever do what he does? Just lay the tie over the shoulder instead of tying it?
No, I wish I could tie a tie sort of.
I've
Yeah,
never
there
seen
you go.
anyone
This
with
is
a
super
tie and
casual.
down.
This is Burke, and he's talking, and he's got that good look. I don't have it.
I like it. I like that look on you.
I like that.
I'm not big and tough like Burke, but
No.
this is the Burke look.
I like that look on you. Maybe we go with that for the Invictus Games.
I think we
Oh,
could
okay,
do it.
we'll talk about it. Good seeing
Thanks,
you, my
guys.
friend. Coming up on the program, is it no look luck, or is it amazing? So there's a Canadian. The top 10 behind the back plays coming up next on SportsCenter with Jay, Dan, and Brian Williams.